The screen glowed with warmth as Kayla Monroe leaned closer to her camera, her smile wide and effortless. Her living room, bathed in the golden light of a ring lamp, looked more like a stage than a home. Thousands of comments scrolled across the screen. Hearts, laughing emojis, declarations of love from strangers who felt as though they knew her. "Y'all are crazy tonight," Kayla laughed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Don't make me blush in front of everybody." Her voice was playful, confident, the kind of charm that had earned her more than 1 million followers. For her fans, it was another night with Kayla, casual, intimate, as though she were talking only to them. But then came the knock. It was faint at first, almost drowned out by the beat of the music playing low in the background. Kayla froze for half a second, her smile faltering, then quickly recovered. "Hold on, guys," she said into the camera, rising from her chair. She thought it might be a neighbor, maybe a package delivery late at night. She had no idea that the knock was the sound of doom. The comments kept flying. "Who's at the door? Don't go, stay with us." Some typed laughing jokes, others begged for suspense. The audience didn't know they were seconds away from watching horror unfold. Kayla reached the door, her voice light as she muttered to herself, "Lord, it's late." She unlocked it, and everything shifted. The man who stepped in was not a neighbor, not a delivery driver. His presence filled the room with unease. He had a lean frame, dark hoodie pulled tight, and eyes that glowed with something unsteady, almost feverish. The chat exploded with curiosity. "Who's that? Scripted? New boyfriend? Ethan?" Kayla's voice broke, soft with disbelief. She stepped back instinctively, glancing at the still-running camera. The man closed the door behind him, slow and deliberate, as though sealing them inside. "You finally said my name," he whispered, his words cracking with a mix of triumph and desperation. "I knew you remembered me." Kayla swallowed, trying to keep her voice steady. "You shouldn't be here. This is my home. You need to leave right now." The viewers leaned closer to their screens, some giggling, others beginning to sense the tension. But Ethan wasn't laughing. His breathing grew heavier, his hands trembling as he took a step closer. "You called me every night," he said, his voice rising. "Every smile, every look into that camera. It was for me. Don't lie." Kayla raised her hands slightly, a calming gesture, though her heart pounded. She could hear it in her ears, a drumbeat of panic. "Ethan, listen to me. This isn't safe. You need help. Please, don't do this." The chat was now a storm. "Call 911. This isn't a joke. Turn off the stream." But Kayla couldn't stop the feed, couldn't think past the man advancing toward her. Ethan's voice cracked with fury. "Help. I don't need help. I need you. And tonight, they're all going to see we belong together." He pointed toward the camera, his eyes wild. Kayla's composure fractured. She stumbled backward, her voice breaking. "Stop. Please, Ethan, don't come any closer." The knife appeared like a flash of lightning, pulled from his pocket in a trembling hand. Gasps filled the chat, strings of horrified emojis flooding the screen. Kayla's scream tore through the speakers, raw and terrified. She tried to dart toward her phone, but Ethan lunged. The camera captured everything, the blur of movement, the sound of impact, and the terrible silence that followed. Kayla collapsed, her body crumpling just beyond the frame of the couch, blood blooming across her shirt. For several seconds, the audience didn't move. Some thought it was staged, some laughed nervously. But when Kayla didn't get up, when Ethan's shadow loomed over her and his words slithered out, "Now you'll never leave me," the truth sank in like ice water. Tens of thousands of people had just witnessed a murder, live. and the stream kept running. Before her name was trending across every social platform, before her face was plastered on news outlets as the victim of a live-streamed murder, Kayla Monroe was simply a small-town girl with dreams bigger than the Oklahoma sky she grew up under. She was born in Tulsa, the middle child of 3 in a modest working-class family. Her father drove trucks across state lines, sometimes gone for weeks. Her mother worked double shifts as a nurse. Kayla often joked that her childhood was more TV dinners than family dinners, but deep down she craved connection. She was the one who made her siblings laugh, the one who stayed up past midnight talking on the phone to friends about boys, music, and the unfairness of life. At school, Kayla wasn't the straight-A student, but she had something teachers couldn't grade: presence. She carried herself with confidence that was contagious, a knack for storytelling that could make even the dullest lunchroom feel like a stage. When live streaming first started gaining popularity, she saw it not as a hobby but as her ticket out of obscurity. By her early 20s, Kayla had turned her bedroom into a makeshift studio. A second-hand camera balanced on stacked shoeboxes, a cheap microphone clipped to her shirt. She spoke to the lens like it was her best friend, and the audience grew. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. They came for her humor, sharp but never cruel, her openness, the way she shared both triumphs and struggles. "Y'all, I burned my dinner again," she'd laugh, holding up a scorched pan. Or she'd cry openly about missing her grandmother's funeral during the pandemic. People felt seen through her. In an online world full of filters and fakery, Kayla was raw, messy, and real. That was her magic. With fame came opportunity. Sponsorship deals, merchandise sales, a management team eager to polish her brand. Kayla bought a sleek apartment in Dallas, far from the cracked sidewalks of her old neighborhood. She was living the dream, but dreams come with shadows. What her fans didn't see was the exhaustion, the pressure to always be on. Nights where she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if anyone truly knew her, or if they just loved the version she projected online. She confessed once, offhand, during a late-night stream, "Sometimes I feel like I'm everybody's best friend and nobody's real friend." Crazy, right? The comments flooded with reassurance, but she shut her laptop with tears in her eyes. Her mother, still in Oklahoma, worried constantly. During one phone call, the concern bled through. "Mother, Kayla, sweetie, fame isn't always safe. Some people, they don't understand boundaries." "Kayla, I know, Mama, but if I shut people out, then what's the point of all this? I want them to feel close." "Mother, close is good. Too close is dangerous." Kayla brushed it off, though deep down she knew her mother was right. The internet had blurred lines between admiration and intrusion. Her DMs overflowed daily, most messages sweet, supportive, filled with gratitude. But others were darker. Demands, obsessions, declarations of ownership. She learned to block accounts quickly, to shrug it off. Still, a chill lingered. Her closest friend, Sierra, remembered Kayla's unease. One night on FaceTime, Kayla confided, "Kayla, there's this guy, Ethan something. He's been messaging me non-stop. I blocked him, but he keeps coming back." Sierra, "Girl, that's scary. You need to call the cops." Kayla, "And say what? That some random dude likes me too much? They'll laugh me out the station." Sierra, "It's not a joke. People get hurt like that." Kayla sighed, shaking her head. "I just don't want to make drama. My fans depend on me. I'll handle it." She smiled on camera, but when the lights shut off, she double-checked her locks. She started carrying pepper spray in her purse. Fame had given her everything she dreamed of, yet stripped away the simple peace of feeling safe at home. And still, she pushed forward. Her star only rose higher. She signed with bigger sponsors, planned a move into YouTube to expand her brand, talked about starting a podcast. To her fans, she was unstoppable. To her mother, she was vulnerable. To Ethan Cole, the man watching every stream, misreading every smile, she was destiny. What Kayla could never know was that her greatest gift, her ability to make strangers feel like family, was the very thing that would blur the line between fan and stalker and draw a predator straight into her living room. While Kayla Monroe's world expanded into a dazzling galaxy of lights, sponsors, and fans, Ethan Cole's universe shrank to a single, burning star, her. Ethan was 33, but life had left him behind. He lived in a dim basement apartment in Fort Worth, the smell of stale pizza boxes and cigarette smoke clinging to the air. The blinds were always drawn. A television sat dark in the corner. He didn't need it. His screen of choice was the laptop propped on his knees, glowing with Kayla's face. He hadn't started as a monster. Once, years ago, he'd held a steady job repairing HVAC units. But depression and anxiety crept in like mold. After losing his job, then his girlfriend, then his sense of direction, Ethan became a shadow in his own life. Until Kayla. The first time he stumbled onto her live stream, he swore she looked right at him. The way her eyes lingered, the casual warmth in her voice, it felt personal. She knows me, he thought. She sees me. In that moment, the void inside him filled with dangerous certainty. Kayla wasn't just a streamer. She was a soulmate, calling out to him through the glass of his computer screen. Night after night, he watched. He memorized the cadence of her laugh, the curve of her smile. He knew the posters on her walls, the mug she always sipped from, the way her eyes dimmed slightly when she thought no one was watching. He convinced himself he was different from the other viewers. They were fans. He was chosen. But obsession is a hunger that only grows. Soon, the comments he left in her chat weren't enough. He sent her private messages, pouring out his soul in rambling paragraphs. When she didn't respond, he wrote again, angrier, needier. Ethan's message: "You don't need them, Kayla. They don't understand you like I do. I'm the one you talk to every night." When she blocked him, his mind twisted it into proof. She's scared of how real this is. She knows it's too powerful. He created new accounts, each one more desperate, more demanding. Friends noticed the change. One old drinking buddy confronted him at a rundown bar. "Buddy, man, you're spiraling. This girl doesn't even know you exist." "Ethan, you're wrong. She looks at me. Every time she goes live, she's talking to me. Don't act like you don't see it. Buddy, it's all in your head. You need help." Ethan, slamming his fist on the table. "Help? She is my help. She's the reason I wake up every damn day." The buddy never called him again. Ethan drifted further into isolation, tethered only to Kayla's image. Soon he wasn't just watching, he was collecting. He screenshot her streams, studied the reflection in her window to guess what building she lived in. He tracked the restaurants she mentioned, the parks she walked her dog in. He kept a notebook, pages filled with her quotes, her outfits, his interpretations of hidden messages. In the fever swamp of his mind, Kayla wasn't ignoring him. She was testing him. If he proved his devotion, she would reveal the truth. And so, Ethan crossed the final threshold. He showed up outside the studio where she once filmed a sponsored ad, lingering in the shadows just to glimpse her walking to her car. His heart pounded as though he'd touched divinity. He convinced himself fate had guided him. Back in his apartment, he whispered to himself in the dark, "Don't worry, Kayla. I'm close now. Soon, you won't have to pretend." But beneath the obsession, a darker seed was sprouting, anger. Each time Kayla smiled at the camera and didn't acknowledge him, each time she laughed at a fan's comment that wasn't his, fury gnawed at him. She belongs to me. Why is she playing games? That fury finally turned into a plan. He would confront her face to face. He would make her admit what she had been denying, make her say his name for the world to hear. And if she resisted, if she dared to reject him, then he would ensure no one else could ever take her away. The line between love and violence had vanished. For Ethan Cole, there was no difference anymore. Kayla's apartment, for all its polished decor and curated warmth, had started to feel less like a sanctuary and more like a stage she couldn't step off. Each ding of her phone brought a rush of excitement, new comments, new sponsors, but also dread. Mixed in with the adoring messages were the ones that crawled under her skin. At first, it was subtle. "I love you, Kayla. You're the only reason I smile." Sweet, maybe even flattering. Then, "Why don't you answer me? You owe me." And later, "If you keep ignoring me, you'll regret it." She deleted, blocked, tried to move on. But the name Ethan kept resurfacing. New profiles, same tone, same possessive desperation. No matter how many walls she built, he found cracks. One evening, after finishing a brand collaboration shoot, she sat cross-legged on her couch, scrolling through her inbox with a frown. Her best friend Sierra, on FaceTime, immediately noticed. "Sierra, girl, you look spooked. What's going on?" "Kayla, it's that guy again. Ethan. He won't stop. I swear, I blocked him at least 6 times. He just keeps coming back. Look at this." She tilted the phone to show a string of messages, some romantic, some bitter, others outright threatening. "Sierra," eyes widening, "Kayla, this is serious. Call the cops. Don't wait until he shows up on your doorstep." Kayla, shaking her head, "And say what? That some weirdo on the internet likes me too much? They'll just roll their eyes. I'm a streamer. This comes with the territory." "Sierra, no. This is different." He sounds obsessed. Kayla, forcing a smile, "I'll be fine. I know how to handle it." But she didn't know how to handle it. Not really. She started checking the locks on her door twice before bed. She pulled her curtains shut tight, no matter how stuffy the apartment felt. During walks with her dog, she caught herself glancing over her shoulder, scanning faces in the crowd. Her mother noticed the strain in her voice over their weekly phone calls. "Mother, baby, you sound tired. You working too hard." Kayla, hesitant, "Just keeping up with everything. It's a lot." "Mother, are you safe? You sound worried." Kayla, "I'm fine, Mama. Promise. Just tired." The last thing she wanted was to make her mother worry more than she already did. Meanwhile, Ethan was escalating. He began sending gifts, flowers left at the front desk of her building, and signed cards that read, "For my love, who lights my nights." The concierge asked once, "Boyfriend?" Kayla forced a laugh, shaking her head, hiding the chill in her spine. Her manager brushed it off, too busy negotiating contracts. "Part of being famous," he said. "Ignore the creeps." But ignoring only emboldened Ethan. He messaged that he knew which cafe she liked, the park she jogged in. He described the clothes she'd worn days earlier, details that made her stomach twist. Someone was watching. Still, she pressed, "Go live night after night." She couldn't let fear own her. She painted on her smile, turned up the ring light, and gave her audience what they came for: warmth, laughter, authenticity. Off camera, she wiped tears she couldn't explain. She wanted to believe the walls between her and Ethan would hold, that he was just another digital phantom who barked but never bit. But in reality, Ethan wasn't content to haunt her inbox anymore. He had crossed into her physical world, blurring the final line of safety she clung to. And soon, he wouldn't be content with flowers and threats. Soon, he would come to her door. The night of March 17th began like so many others for Kayla Monroe. She had ordered takeout, set her hair in soft waves, and adjusted the ring light to give her living room that warm, glowing effect her fans loved. She slipped into a simple off-the-shoulder blouse, casual enough to feel approachable, stylish enough to hold attention. She sat at her desk, drew a deep breath, and clicked go live. "Hey, my loves," she greeted, her voice bright, masking the heaviness in her chest. Within seconds, hearts and emojis exploded across the screen. Thousands of fans poured in, some greeting her like an old friend. "Kayla, we missed you. Looking gorgeous, Queen." She laughed, brushing her hair behind her shoulder. "Y'all are too much. I swear, you're going to make me blush before I even start." For the next half hour, she did what she did best. She entertained. She read comments, told stories about her clumsy trip to the grocery store, joked about how her dog snored louder than any man she'd ever dated. Her fans howled with laughter. For them, it was pure joy. For Kayla, it was a performance stitched together with fragile thread. Behind the smile, her nerves tingled. She had noticed strange footsteps outside her building earlier that week, a shadow near her mailbox. She brushed it off, didn't want to spook herself, but unease gnawed at her. Even as she laughed on camera, her ears perked at every sound outside her door. And then it came. The knock. A sharp, deliberate thud, thud, thud. Kayla froze, eyes flicking toward the door. Her fans noticed immediately. "Who's that?" "Don't answer, girl." "Scary vibes, She forced a laugh. "Probably DoorDash." "Hold on, y'all." She rose from her chair, smoothing her blouse, and crossed the room. She pulled the door open, and the world shifted. Ethan Cole stood there, hood pulled low, his eyes wild but purposeful. He didn't look like a stranger stumbling in. He looked like a man who had rehearsed this moment in his mind 1,000 times. "Ethan!" Kayla's voice cracked, small and frightened. Her heart plummeted. He stepped inside without invitation, shutting the door with a final click. On the screen, her fans erupted. "Wait, who is that? Scripted? New boyfriend reveal?" But Kayla's face told the truth. She wasn't smiling. She was terrified. "Finally," Ethan whispered, his voice trembling with both joy and rage. "Finally, you let me in." Kayla lifted her hands, palms out, trembling. "You can't be here. This is my home. You need to leave." He laughed, sharp and bitter. "Leave? After everything we've shared? No, Kayla. You looked at me. You spoke to me. Every night. This," he gestured toward the glowing camera, "was all for me." The chat began to fracture. Some still thought it was a skit. Others began to panic. "Call 911. Girl, this is not a joke. Someone do something." Kayla's voice shook, but she tried to steady it. "Ethan, listen. You're not well. You need help. Please, don't do this. There are thousands of people watching right now." He smirked, stepping closer. "Good. Let them see. Let them see we belong together." Her pulse raced. She glanced at her phone on the desk, just out of reach. If she could grab it, maybe she could call the police. But Ethan saw the flicker in her eyes. His hand darted forward, snatching the phone and hurling it against the wall. The crack of shattering glass made her flinch. "No more hiding," he hissed. "No more ignoring me." The chat was chaos. "OMG, call the cops. This is real. Somebody help her." Kayla backed up, her breath ragged, her voice cracking. "Please, Ethan. You're scaring me. Just walk out that door. I won't call the police. Just leave." Ethan's hands trembled as he reached into his pocket. A blade glinted under the harsh ring light. Gasps flooded the live stream. Kayla's scream cut through the speakers. "No, please." He lunged. The camera shook as her chair toppled. Her body stumbled backward into view, eyes wide, arms outstretched as if to hold him off. Ethan, snarling, "If I can't have you, no one will." The knife slashed forward. Kayla's cry tore into thousands of living rooms across America. The stream didn't falter. It captured everything. She fell to the floor, clutching her side, blood seeping through her blouse. Her fans watched in horror as life drained from her eyes. Some still typed frantically, believing their words could somehow break through the screen. "Fight back, Kayla! Run! Oh my God, someone help!" But Kayla couldn't run. Ethan crouched beside her, his face inches from hers, whispering words only the microphone could catch. "Now you'll never leave me. Now you're mine forever." The silence after her final breath was unbearable. Ethan rocked back on his heels, staring at the camera as if daring the world to stop him. 4 long, heavy seconds. Thousands of viewers locked eyes with a killer. Then he reached up, touched the lens with bloody fingers, and whispered, "You all saw it. You all know she loved me." And with that, he walked out of frame, leaving Kayla motionless on the floor, blood pooling, the stream still rolling. For nearly 5 minutes, the video stayed live. Comments flooded in, some hysterical, some begging for help, others paralyzed by disbelief. "Is this real? Call 911 now. Please God, no." Finally, the feed cut to black. But by then, it was too late. Tens of thousands had just witnessed a murder in real time, and the Internet, once Kayla's stage, had become her coffin. When the stream finally cut to black, the Internet didn't go silent. It roared. Clips of Kayla's final moments were ripped, reposted, and shared across platforms within minutes. Hashtags bearing her name climbed to the top of Twitter. People who hadn't been watching live scrambled to see what everyone was talking about. What they found was unspeakable. A woman murdered on camera, in front of an audience that could do nothing but type frantic words of warning. Many viewers were in shock. Some were teenagers, crying as they realized their favorite streamer had just been killed. Others were older fans, their hands trembling as they dialed 911, voices breaking as they tried to explain what they had just witnessed. "Caller, it was on Facebook Live. She was stabbed. Please, hurry." Dispatchers were overwhelmed with duplicate reports pouring in from across the country. Still, the closest responders were in Dallas, where Kayla's apartment sat under the weight of stunned silence. Police arrived within minutes of neighbors hearing screams. They found Ethan Cole sitting on the floor of Kayla's living room, his hands and hoodie soaked in blood. He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He was rocking gently, whispering the same phrase over and over. "She's mine. She's mine. She's mine." An officer shouted commands, weapon drawn. Ethan looked up, eyes wild, then slowly spread his arms, palms open, as if presenting himself for capture. The officers moved in quickly, cuffing him, reading his rights. Kayla lay only feet away, her body still and lifeless, her once vibrant presence reduced to silence. Outside, flashing lights bathed the street in red and blue. Neighbors gathered, their faces pale, murmuring in disbelief. Some had known Kayla only as the friendly young woman who smiled politely in the hallway. None of them had realized they were living next door to an internet star, or that danger had been circling her for months. Meanwhile, on Facebook, the footage had yet to be fully removed. For nearly half an hour after her death, fragments of the live stream were still circulating, watched by millions. Parents rushed to shield their children from the images. Advocacy groups condemned the platform for failing to intervene fast enough. Kayla's family, back in Oklahoma, learned of her death not from the police but from the internet. Her younger brother, scrolling on his phone, saw her name trending and clicked, only to collapse to the floor when he saw the horrifying footage. Her mother's screams filled the small house when the call from Dallas police finally came. "I told her," she sobbed into the receiver. "I told her people out there didn't mean her well." Across the country, commentators rushed to weigh in. News anchors delivered the story with hushed voices, calling it a tragedy of the digital age. Mental health experts warned of the dangers of obsession unchecked. Advocates for online safety demanded reforms. But for those who had watched live, no analysis could erase the sound of her scream, the sight of her falling, the helplessness of typing words into a chat that could not save her. Many would later report nightmares, flashbacks, guilt. One viewer told reporters, "It felt like we were all in the room, screaming for her to run. But she couldn't hear us. And then, she was gone." As for Ethan, he was led into a squad car, eyes glazed, mouth curling into a smile that sent chills down the spines of the officers who escorted him. He looked less like a man facing prison than someone convinced he had one. By midnight, the world knew Kayla Monroe was dead, a star extinguished in the most public, haunting way imaginable. And the questions that followed were as relentless as the images now burned into millions of minds. Could it have been prevented? Should anyone have stopped it? And what does it mean when violence is not just committed, but broadcast? The trial of Ethan Cole began 6 months after the live stream that shocked America. By then, Kayla Monroe's name had become a symbol, a cautionary tale of the dangers of internet fame, a tragic reminder of how adoration can curdle into obsession. Outside the Dallas County Courthouse, crowds gathered every day. Some carried posters with Kayla's smiling face and the words, "Justice for Kayla." Others demanded reforms from social media giants, chanting about accountability. Reporters crowded the steps, their cameras capturing every tear, every angry shout, every dramatic arrival of the attorneys. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was electric with grief and rage. Kayla's family sat in the front row, her mother clutching a tissue, her younger brother staring hard at the man who had destroyed their lives. Behind them, supporters filled the benches, their expressions a mix of sorrow and fury. When Ethan Cole was led in, shackled and pale, the room fell into a tense hush. He looked thinner, his hair longer and unkempt, yet his eyes still carried the same unsettling intensity, as if he were locked in a reality no one else could see. The prosecution painted him as a calculating killer. They replayed parts of the live stream for the jury, a move that left several jurors visibly shaken. Kayla's screams echoed through the courtroom, her desperate pleas etched into the minds of everyone present. Prosecutor's voice rose. This was not the act of a man overcome by madness in the moment. This was premeditated. He tracked her, he stalked her, and he chose to end her life, on camera, for the world to see. The defense countered with a very different narrative. They called psychiatrists who described Ethan as deeply delusional, suffering from untreated paranoid schizophrenia. Defense attorney, Ethan Cole did not understand reality. In his mind, Kayla spoke to him directly. She sent him messages through the camera. He did not see a stranger, he saw a partner. This was a tragedy born from untreated illness, not malice. The courtroom bristled at those words. Kayla's brother muttered angrily under his breath. Her mother shook her head, whispering, "No." He knew exactly what he was doing. Witness after witness testified. Friends recounted how Ethan spoke of Kayla as if she were his girlfriend. A bartender recalled Ethan slamming his fist on a table, swearing Kayla was sending him secret signals. Police officers described the eerie calm with which he surrendered, whispering that she was his forever. But the most heartbreaking testimony came from Sierra, Kayla's best friend. Fighting through tears, she told the jury about the late-night calls, the screenshots of messages, the fear Kayla carried but never acted upon. Sierra's voice broke. She was scared, but she didn't want to be dramatic. She thought no one would believe her. Now she's dead because of it. The room was silent except for the sound of muffled sobs. Public opinion outside the courthouse was sharply divided. Some sympathized with the defense, arguing that Ethan's illness had gone untreated for years and that the system had failed both him and Kayla. Others were unforgiving. Mental illness might explain, but it could not excuse stabbing a woman to death on camera. Television pundits debated endlessly. Was Ethan a monster or a patient? Should social media platforms bear responsibility for not intervening sooner? Could stricter laws protecting online personalities have saved Kayla? As the trial neared its end, both sides delivered powerful closing arguments. The prosecutor faced the jury, her voice steady but fierce. "Prosecutor, we cannot allow obsession to be excused as illness. He planned this. He brought the knife. He waited for his moment. And then he made the world his accomplice by broadcasting her murder live. That is not sickness. That is intent." The defense lawyer countered, softer but no less passionate. Defense attorney, punishment will not bring Kayla back. This man's mind is broken. To call him evil is to ignore the disease that consumed him. He belongs in a hospital, not a prison. When the jury withdrew to deliberate, the tension in the courtroom was unbearable. Hours felt like days. Kayla's mother clutched a small cross, whispering prayers. Reporters refreshed their phones every minute, waiting for the verdict. At last, the jury filed back in. The foreman stood, his voice trembling slightly. "Foreman, we find the defendant, Ethan Cole, guilty of murder in the first degree." Gasps and tears rippled through the room. Kayla's mother collapsed into her son's arms, sobbing with both relief and grief. Ethan stared ahead blankly, his expression unreadable. Some said he almost smiled. The judge sentenced him to life without parole. But the trial did not end the conversation. It only widened it. Across America, people asked, how many more Kaylas would there be before something changed? Could anyone truly be safe in a world where the screen between fan and target was so paper-thin? For Kayla's family, the verdict was justice, but never closure. They left the courthouse knowing their daughter would never come home, her laughter never filling a room again. And for millions who had watched that night, the trial confirmed what they already knew. They hadn't just witnessed a crime. They had witnessed the birth of a cultural reckoning. The gavel had fallen, the sentence was final, but for Kayla Monroe's loved ones, justice felt like a hollow word. A verdict could not breathe life back into the young woman whose laughter once filled every room, whose presence had lit up millions of screens. A month after the trial, her family held a memorial service back in Tulsa. The small church overflowed. Fans traveled from across states, some wearing shirts printed with Kayla's face, others clutching flowers. Outside, a giant screen projected her live stream highlights, her jokes, her tears, her raw honesty that had made her so beloved. Her mother stood at the pulpit, her voice trembling but determined. My daughter was more than what happened to her. She was light, she was joy, she was strength. Don't remember her for the way she died. Remember her for the way she lived. The congregation rose to their feet, many weeping openly. Online, tributes poured in. Hashtags of her name continued trending weeks after the trial. Fans organized digital vigils, lighting candles in their homes and sharing photos under the words, "For Kayla." Some found comfort in community. Others confessed they still couldn't sleep after witnessing her final moments. The collective grief of thousands hung heavy, as if the internet itself carried her ghost. Her best friend Sierra spoke at the memorial too, her voice cracking. Kayla always told me she wanted people to feel less alone. And she did that. Even now, she's still bringing people together. But I wish, God, I wish she hadn't paid this price. The aftermath reached far beyond her circle. Influencers across platforms began speaking out, demanding better protections. Some called for panic buttons on live stream apps, quicker response systems to flag emergencies. Others urged viewers to take stalking seriously, not as harmless fandom. But change was slow. Facebook issued statements of regret, promising to improve monitoring, yet critics slammed them for failing to cut the live stream sooner. Lawmakers debated but stalled on legislation. And so, the unease lingered. If it could happen to Kayla, who else was vulnerable? For her family, the grief became part of their daily rhythm. Her brother struggled with guilt. He had seen her worried, had urged her to go to the police, but he hadn't pushed hard enough. Her mother kept Kayla's childhood room untouched, a shrine to simpler times, before the ring lights and sponsorships and stalkers. Sometimes at night, her mother replayed old voicemails, Kayla's voice chirping, "Love you, Mama, I'll call tomorrow." The calls never came. In Dallas, the apartment where Kayla lived sat empty for months. Neighbors passed by in silence, their stomachs tightening at the memory of flashing lights and crime scene tape. Eventually, someone new moved in, but whispers lingered in the hallways. That's where it happened. Kayla's story became a cautionary tale taught in college media classes, cited in debates on digital safety, used in presentations about online harassment. Yet for those who knew her, reducing her life to a warning felt like another theft. She wasn't a lesson. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend. Still, her memory endured. Fans continued to comment on her last archived videos. "Miss you every day. You changed my life, Kayla." The digital footprint she left behind became both a source of comfort and pain, a reminder of her warmth, but also of the night the world watched her light go out. And so, the story of Kayla Monroe did not end with a trial, or a sentence, or even a funeral. It lived on, in the hearts of those who loved her, in the nightmares of those who watched, and in the uneasy awareness of a society still struggling to understand the cost of living life in front of a camera. Long after the verdict, long after the funeral flowers wilted and the news cameras turned away, Kayla Monroe's presence lingered, not in her apartment, not in the courthouse, but in the endless corridors of the Internet. Her Facebook page remained online, frozen in time. The last video thumbnail still sat there, her smile captured in that fatal stream. Next to it, the words read, "Live video ended." For many, that phrase became a haunting epitaph. Fans continued to leave comments as though she could still read them. "Good night, Kayla. Miss you, Angel." Others wrote confessions of guilt, unable to shake the memory of watching helplessly as she begged for her life. One wrote simply, "I saw it happen. I can't unsee it." Clips of her final moments resurfaced again and again, despite takedown attempts. Each time, outrage flared. Yet so did morbid fascination. Kayla had dreamed of being unforgettable. She was, but not in the way she ever wanted. In Tulsa, her mother sometimes logged onto Kayla's account just to scroll through the old live streams. She'd listen to her daughter laugh, cracking silly jokes about burned dinners and clumsy dances, and for a fleeting second it felt like Kayla was still there. But then the memory of how it ended would return, and the screen would blur with tears. Ethan Cole sat behind bars in a Texas prison, his life reduced to concrete walls and numbered days. Yet even in confinement, he reportedly bragged to other inmates that millions had watched him claim Kayla forever. For him, infamy was victory. For society, her death left an unresolved wound. Lawmakers still argued, platforms still scrambled to balance freedom with safety, and families across the country wondered if the digital age had birthed dangers they could never truly control. Kayla's story became less about one woman and more about the world she lived in, a world where connection could be forged with a click and destroyed just as quickly. And so, her ghost remains in the stream. A smiling face frozen before the knock on the door, a voice that once brought comfort now echoing as a warning. Fame and danger are never far apart when the camera never turns off.